Glamour Magazine UK have published an article about Whitney and the way that she was treated on the recent Love Island episodes. I've had a read of this article and there's just some parts of it that have been so well articulated that I wanted to share with you. The title of the article is What Whitney's Treatment in Love Island All-Stars Really Tells Us. Robin Eugene, who is the writer on this article, she writes, masking pain can feel like second nature to women of colour, whose character is always one wrong comment or even one decibel away from being labelled rude, loud and aggressive. Black women need support too. The world has forced us to be our own biggest advocates, but simultaneously, I find, judge, jury, and executor of our own character too. When your motivations and character are so often called into question, it becomes hard not to look inwards. Am I scary? Am I intimidating? Am I aggressive? Your friends will tell you no. You're funny, you're supportive, but constantly seeing the good in yourself in a world that wants to convince you that you are bad is exhausting. Shaq approached an exhausted Whitney, hands flailing, swear words rushing out of his mouth, physically towering over her on the attack. This, for me, was the most traumatic part of the episode to watch, and I believe that if Whitney were a white woman being approached in this way by a man, this would have received floods of Ofcom complaints. Whitney did well not to mention race during this entire debacle, lest she be accused of playing the race card, but I'll say it for her. The entire episode was permeated with the same racism that undercovers every black woman's experience in England. Whether it's dating, at work, or in friendship groups, you're constantly, subtly told to shrink and be quiet. Hello, welcome to another episode of Debriefed with me, your homegirl, Dami Zane. I hope you are doing well. The last week has been, it's been tough. It's been very tough for a, for a number of reasons. The main one is this Love Island All-Stars has been very triggering. It's been very triggering, especially as a dark-skinned black girl. Black woman. From the title of this episode, you can already tell that I will be debriefing that. But I hope you guys have had a good week. I hope you've had a better week than I have. And yeah, let's get into it. Before I get started though, if you are listening on the audio platform, Spotify and YouTube, and you are not following me, please follow me, please. I do get quite a few listens. I would love it if people followed, because the more followers I have, the more likely it is that Apple Music and Spotify will push my content to new people who might want to hear me. So help a woman out. Help a woman out. Likewise, if you're watching on YouTube and you can see the visuals, please subscribe if you like what you hear, or if you want to get involved in more conversations like this in the comments in the future, you might as well just subscribe. So last week I promised that I would do a debrief of Love Island All-Stars, and I said that I would do a roundup of the episodes so far. And at the time that I am recording this podcast, we've had episodes 1 to 9. And when I tell you, a lot has happened in those 9 days. It's been stressful. It's been so stressful. It's been so stressful. Normally, the first few episodes are a bit light. You know, we see a few hints of problematic behaviour, but it's not so much whereby there's so many talking points. A lot of the time, we're still getting to know the connections that are there. We're still getting to know the cast. And obviously with Love Island All-Stars, it's different because we've seen these people before. But we haven't seen these people in this setting together. They have their own respective seasons. Obviously, some people come from the same season, like Whitney and Jess, but the dynamics between the group is different because it's a whole different cast. It's you know, that's just the nature of the show. So I'm expecting the first few episodes to kind of be light, like almost I suspect it to be boring, because it's just like, okay, like, let's see if these lot can work together. Let's see if, you know, they can build connections with the cast that they have. But when I was preparing for this podcast episode today, I sat down and I listed the main things that have happened over the last days. And when I tell you, the list is a bit too long, considering it's only been on for 9 days. We've only had 9 episodes at the time that I'm recording this. And the drama has been so much that I even contemplated whether I wanted to continue watching the season. This season of Love Island All Stars, for me, let me just tell you off the top, has made me think, should they continue to do a Love Island All Stars? Should we wrap it up? Because when the cast members came out, when we found out who was going to be on it, I already thought, this isn't going to work. Like, I don't see certain connections forming for certain people. But you know what? I'm watching it to support mainly Whitney, Leanne, and Scott. Those are the three people that I'm mainly supporting on the show. And they're the people that I wanted to watch it for. But it's like, after the Love Island season 12 that we just had in the summer, with the whole Tony, Shakira and Yasmin versus Meg, Helena, Megan, Emily, and that divide, that was exhausting, especially as an outspoken woman who would probably fit more with Shakira, Tony and Yasmin's grip, because I mean, I'm not a blonde or brunette white girl. Let's just say it for what it is, right? Because I'm so outspoken and I stand up for my mates, people would probably think, oh, she's in everybody's business and she's this and she's that. So I probably would have been deemed an outcast and been thrown into their group. So being someone who could resonate with them and relate to them, seeing how they were treated and even how the show was edited and produced, even down to like the scenes that they chose to show at like movie night and things like that, which I will stand 10 toes down and say that the producers wanted to paint those three girls like that because they wanted the public to view Meg, Helena and co in a certain way. That's one thing. The second thing that I found really toxic about that season was Dejon, Harrison, Harry, like the men, Ben, the way he used to talk to women. That season was very, 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 very toxic as a woman, because seeing how misogyny was playing out, seeing how these men were manipulating these women, and it was just too much. And it kind of took the fun out of watching Love Island, giving commentary and enjoying reality TV, because it just felt like a concentrated space of pure toxicity. And I really thought that All Stars might give us a bit of a break from that sort of thing. I was like, as long as Dejon isn't coming back, people like Harrison, who is rumoured to come back as a bombshell, but you never know. You know, the key people that were in that season that were very problematic, as long as they don't come back, it should be okay. Helena's in there. I don't feel like Helena was particularly toxic. I'm going to talk about Helena in a second anyway, but I don't think she was particularly toxic, sorry. I feel like with Helena, I was just sick and tired of the decisions that she was making, and wanted better for her. And then I realized that I'm wanting better for someone who doesn't even want better for themselves. So let me just fall back, you know? But in terms of the people that were, you know, manipulative or like particularly borderline abusive, I was like, yeah, as long as they're not in All Stars, we should be fine. And they're not in All Stars for as far as we can see for now, right? So I was just expecting All Stars to be a much more pleasant experience, maybe borderline boring, but still a better experience. Come to find out, in the last 9 days, or shall I say the first 9 days of this season, we have seen manipulation. We have seen misogyny. We have seen microaggressions. We've seen men being aggressive towards women. It's just too much. It's a lot. And it's really had me thinking, if this is what we're getting now, how is it going to be over the next 5 weeks? Lord help me. I genuinely feel like it is for our entertainment, obviously, and, you know, it would be boring if it was all airy-fairy and everything was great and smooth and there was no conflict in the show. We would be bored kind of like when you watch Love is Blind, the couple that seem to be plain sailing, by the time we get to the weddings, people don't care to watch their wedding because we know there was no conflict, there was no friction. We're bored. Okay, they're in love, great. We like the couples where there's problems because it gives us something to talk about. We find it way more entertaining, and I guess that's more of a reflection on our mindset and how we look at dating and how we look at TV, period, right? But these producers know that. So obviously they want to throw in as much drama as they can. They want to cultivate as much drama as they can to keep us engaged. But it gets to a point. It gets to a point. I'm going to start with Scott and Leanne. I think they're super cute. I really believe in what they have. I wasn't sure about Scott being serious. I mean, there's an age gap. I think Scott is 25. Leanne is 28. So she is a bit older than him. Scott he's an interesting character because sometimes he comes across as mature and sometimes he comes across to me like he isn't. And in the previous seasons of Love Island that he's been on, he wasn't really coming across like a serious guy in the relationship department. However, I really like how he's been treating Leanne. They are so adorable. Like, they are constantly touching each other, always cuddled up, always snuggling. When we get to see glimpses of them on the night cam, they're always like kissing and hugging in bed. Sometimes, you know, the camera's focused on a particular situation happening in front of us, and then you'll see Scott and Leanne somewhere in the background, and they just look like they're having a really good time. And then we had the date more recently. I think that was episode 8. The date was mwah, gorgeous. You know, Scott was asking all the right questions. He was asking her if her family would like him. He was asking her if she's ever been to where he's from and whether, you know, if she would like it. You know, he was wondering if she would love, you know, his hometown. So like, it's sounding like I'm thinking beyond the villa and it's only 8-9 days in. Leanne didn't really go that far in her season. She was coupled up with Mike. I forget his surname, but she was coupled up with Mike and she got the ick. And then, you know, shortly after that, she didn't really match with anybody else. And that was the end of that. And even after leaving the villa, Leanne's one of those people that I don't think really had, like, her career didn't really move as big and as fast as some of the other people that have come out of there. She's obviously known, she's obviously loved because she's been on the show. And on top of that, I would even go so far as to say my demographic have probably kept up to date with what Leanne is doing. But in terms of nationally here in the UK, probably not. And so because she's not really had much play outside of the villa, from what I know, on a more national scale, outside of the black community in the UK, she didn't win her season. I don't think Scott's interest in Leanne is to do with clout or is to do with wanting to win the game. I don't think it's gameplay. I think he genuinely likes her and I think she genuinely likes him. And so I really enjoy seeing them. My only gripe is I wish we saw more of them. And even more recently when Millie, which I'm gonna come on to this. I'm gonna come on to this a little bit deeper in a second, but you know, when Millie told Scott, she pulled Scott for a chat in episode 9 and she was like, oh, you know, trying to gauge what they have, if they can even get anything started, right? And Scott made it very clear, I had a lovely date with Leanne. Like, he wasn't even trying to give her the impression that he wants to pursue that. He made it very clear, me and Leanne, like, we're cool, but me and Leanne. So he essentially friend zoned her. And I won't lie, I was worried because Black women don't really get good experiences in the villa, but it's looking like Leanne might be one that does. It's still early days, like they like to say in there, so a bombshell might come in and ruin it all, but for now, it's comforting to know that there's no one in that villa currently that's going to turn Scott's head from Leanne. And I'm hoping and praying it stays that way. And then we've got the whole Jess and Tommy situation. So Jess and Tommy were put together by the public. Even I put Jess and Tommy together. And that was without even knowing that those two had been DMing each other prior to coming on the show. Jess didn't really like Tommy telling everyone in the villa on the first day that I've been in your DMs, we've been texting, you tried to get me to come and pick you up from the club one time. She didn't really like that he brought that up. I don't know if it's because maybe deep down she knows she's not really feeling him, and she knew it from early. She knew it from when he DM'd her that this guy is just Uber. That's what I've got him saved as in my phone. And so by him making it seem like what they had outside the villa was bigger than what it was, it's ruining her play. Like, it's blocking me from getting to know other people because they're going to think we should be together. And then when they were put together by the public, as you can see, most people backed off of Jess, and pretty much nobody is talking to Tommy as it stands right now. So, you know, I can see why she was annoyed by that, because you don't want to go into the villa and, you know, somebody's already trying to attach themselves to you. And it's like, slow your roll, mate. I'm not your babes. So yeah, I don't think Jess even liked Tommy from the get-go. I think, again, we have to make do with what we got. This is what is here. The guys that I might like are getting on with other people. So if this is the couple I'm in, this is the couple I'm in. Let me give it a go. But I know I don't really like this guy. As a woman, we've all been there. We've had guys that, you know, we're not particularly attracted to, that we don't particularly like in that way, that, you know, show some interest in us. And, you know, sometimes stupidly, in my opinion, we just go, oh, you know what? Don't really like this guy. He's not really my type. He's not really what I would go for, but let me give it a go because he seems like a lovely chap. And I feel like as women, we need to toe that line between he's a lovely chap, let me give him a chance, and I actually really need to like the guy. If you don't like the guy, and there needs to be something more than just, oh, because he's a nice guy, I'm going to give him a chance. No, you have to like the guy. Otherwise, what are we here for? And it's actually unfair on him. So I do think that Jess knew already that she didn't like him. And that's why it was very easy for her to basically pie him off for Charlie, even though Charlie hadn't made it clear that he was going to leave Millie for her. Jess was ready to throw the towel in on Tommy. She got the ick. I mean, I don't think she even liked him in the first place to get the ick, to be fair. She knew she didn't like him, but she gave it a go. And the first sign of somebody else giving her attention, she was ready to throw him in the bin. And rudely too. When Jess pulled Tommy to the side to tell him, I can't remember who pulled who, but they had a private conversation, and Jess was talking about there's no spark, and then it went from there's no spark to I live alone and I'm independent and I need somebody that's also independent. I just thought she's clutching at straws to find any reason to give us an excuse to Tommy to let him know she no longer wants to pursue things with him, when really all she could say was, Tommy, I think we'd be better off as friends. That's literally it. Like, you don't need to give reasoning. You don't need to give reasoning. Just saying, I think we'd be better as friends is more than enough. And you know what is funny about this situation, right? I remember the turning point. I remember it was after the recoupling, and then we just see Jess and Charlie talking, and all of a sudden now it's, oh, they're attracted to each other and they've been flirting with each other and they've been making eyes at each other and they want to kiss. Well, Charlie brought up the kiss. Charlie brought up how he wanted to kiss her, and how if they were sitting by a tree, if the tree was covering more of them, he probably would have gone for the kiss. And Jess was like, whoa, 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 me and Millie are friends, right? Cool. That felt like it came out of nowhere. There was no build up. There was no, oh, we're seeing little like hints here and there that those two have had conversations. I don't know if it's an editing error or flaw, but it just felt like it came out of literally like blindsided us, that now all of a sudden Charlie's into Jess, Jess is into Charlie. And then again, because we don't know if Jess had already told Tommy that she was open to getting to know other people and she was open to getting to know Charlie, it just made Jess look worse, because it just made Jess look like someone who's trying to play the field and she's not being fair to Tommy. So again, in that conversation where she was telling him, basically, I'm friend zoning you because there's no spark and you live with your mama,
it just made her look terrible, to be honest. It made her look like, what the hell? Like, this is rude. This is disrespectful. You don't need to go down that line. And you still haven't told him that you're thinking about kissing Charlie. You haven't even told him that. And I'm mindful we don't get to see everything. That's why I'm wording it in this way, but it just came across that way. So then, poor Tommy at the coupling the next day, all the other girls are chosen. So the only person left is Jess. Of course he's going to have to pick Jess. And we've never seen someone in that predicament turn around and say, oh, I mean, I'm coupling up with this person because they're the person that's left. It's almost like the producers tell them, you must give a speech, you must say something nice. But Tommy decided to choose vengeance and violence. He said, you know what? I don't really like the way you spoke to me the other day. I don't like the way you've treated me. You barely pull me for chats. You barely have any time for me. You're always going around talking to everybody else. And yeah, like, we're coupling up, but I just can't couple up with you, making you feel like everything's rosy when it's not. And come and see how everybody was up in arms. Tommy's disrespectful. Tommy is this, Tommy is that. I do feel like Tommy's emotional intelligence was lacking, because in that very moment, Jess thought that she was going to be picked by Charlie. And then she wasn't. And then she was the last girl standing. And, you know, that's another level of rejection. Okay. So in that moment, she's already feeling kind of vulnerable. She's already in her feelings. She's embarrassed. Was that the right time to bring up that you don't like how she treated you and kind of give her a little bit of a read, a little bit of a wash down? Probably not. An emotionally intelligent person would have been like, and not just an emotionally intelligent person, an emotionally intelligent person who is kind, like genuinely kind, would have been like, my feelings are valid and I'm still going to express my feelings, but now isn't the time. This isn't the right time. Because if I do it now, it would look like I'm adding on to this girl's embarrassment, and I don't need to do that. And furthermore, the conversation we had was in private. So I can really have this conversation with her in private and just say, oh, you know, I'm coupling up with this girl because we were coupled up with each other before. And, you know, even though both of us have agreed that we want to stay as friends, hopefully somebody else will come in for the both of us. But for now, I'm happy to carry on with Jess. So I picked Jess. Simple. Then you pull her to the side and be like, the conversation we had yesterday, in the moment, I didn't have time to come and tell you how I felt because I needed to process it. This is how I feel. That is a mature way to deal with it. Someone who is actually caring and kind and doesn't want to use somebody else for a moment. That's how they would have dealt with it. And I made that argument online. I said that everything he said was valid, but the way in which he did it, I didn't agree with. And I had a lot of people in my comments telling me, but if it was a woman that had done that, so if the roles were reversed, as they like to say, and Jess had done a speech like that for Tommy in a recoupling, that women would have been on her side. And this is one thing about me, right? If you've not been following me before, if you haven't followed me before, and this is the first time, I like to think I'm fair. Like, I am obviously part of a demographic that always gets thrown under the bus, always gets mistreated on these shows. And I will speak up for that. I'll always speak up for women, black women, children, black people, all day, every day. Like, I will speak up for them. If I feel that they are being victimized, I will speak on it, right? If I feel like they're being victimized, disrespected, anything like that, I will speak on it. But at the same time, I will hold them accountable if I think they've done something wrong. And so by me saying that Tommy could have dealt with it differently, if the roles were reversed, I would have said the same thing. I would have been like, you know what? Yeah, actually, based on the way that Tommy had treated Jess's feelings are valid, absolutely, but she didn't need to read him like that in front of everybody. Like, that is too much, you know? But simply because it wasn't that way, and the way in which the chips fell is that it was Jess that was embarrassed that day. Then came the apology. So when Jess and Tommy the next day had a conversation, And Tommy acknowledged that, oh, whoa, hold on. Like, I understand the timing wasn't great, and I understand that you were embarrassed, and I'm sorry that I embarrassed you. I did feel like I needed to tell you how I felt because my feelings are valid. Here comes Jess, not ready to hear it. And this is the issue that I have with Jess. And I'm going to bring up again, because she does it reoccurringly. She doesn't know when to accept that she is wrong. It's almost like she thinks she's always right. And when she's been caught out, or she's been confronted with something that she's done wrong, she victimizes herself. Like, she's a chronic victim. Waterworks will be coming out. And she centers herself. She's very self-centered. Tommy's apologized to you because he embarrassed you. Cool. But to keep going on and on, like basically not wanting to hear him out at all. These times you were the one that disrespected him. You disrespected him. That is not okay. That is not okay. Like, humble yourself. Take constructive criticism. You can be wrong sometimes. You're not perfect. And actually, it takes someone with a lot of maturity to be like, okay, like, yeah, it wasn't pleasant and I was embarrassed. Thank you for apologizing for that. And still have room to hear what he had to say about why he felt the way that he felt. Two things can be true at once. If there's one thing I say all the time, it's two things can be true at once. And I feel like with Jess, she just doesn't know how to take accountability. And because she victimizes herself so much, chronically victimizes herself, she's unable to see past her and how her actions affect everybody else. And it's almost like, yeah, that doesn't matter. What you've done to me and how you've upset me matters the most. That's a problem. That's a big problem. And I feel like she needs to work on that, because even in that moment, she still hadn't even told Tommy, from what we could see, that she had kissed Charlie twice. And that the reason why she was even upset in the first place is because Charlie literally kissed her twice just before the recoupling, or sometime before the recoupling, because we don't know what amount of minutes or hours had passed between the two events, only for him to recouple with Millie in the end. That's why she was embarrassed. It's not because of what Tommy did. That was the main thing that embarrassed her. She was rejected. So Tommy doesn't know any of that. He doesn't know any of that. So shouting at him, or can't remember, she didn't shout, but she had her voice raised, talking to him with all this vim and attitude, when he doesn't even have the full facts to understand the extent of why him choosing to say what he said at that time had embarrassed her. It's just like, your communication is crap. It's crap. And you need to get off your high horse. Which I might as well talk about Charlie and Millie. Charlie irritated me from, you know, the game that they played at the fire pit. One of the first games they played was when they had someone in a hot seat and they would ask them questions, and they would either answer the question, or if they passed, they got to go and kiss someone. And Charlie came for Whitney, saying that she's playing a game because she's not being open with Jack. And you know what I thought, yeah? Because Charlie said it, Ciaran said it, Sean said it. And it made me think, did Jack come and talk to you about it? Like, obviously, Jack has been having conversations with you guys, debriefing with you guys about his experience with Whitney. And because Jack is quiet and really laid back, you've taken it upon yourselves to fight his corner on his behalf. And I don't want to use the word attack because it just comes across it's really extreme. But you thought you would confront Whitney on this on Jack's behalf, because Jack was very quiet. He did not defend Whitney at all in that game. But from when that happened, I thought, I don't really like this Charlie guy. He's inserting himself in Jack and Whitney's situation. But then when Scott was inserting himself in him and Millie and Jess's situation, he was going on about, I don't want anybody in my business. You've been in other people's business. The hypocrisy. And that doesn't mean that being in each other's business is right. It just means people in glass houses shouldn't be throwing stones. I'm a big believer of that. Whenever you hear me saying, oh, so-and-so is doing this, but so-and-so is doing that, I'm not saying because B is doing it, that it's okay for A to do it. I'm saying B needs to shut up. Like, you need to keep your mouth closed, because you do the same thing. And when you do it, you don't see anything wrong with it. So now that it's happening to you, just zip it. Just keep quiet. So that's kind of what irritated me with Charlie. But then also the way that he handled the whole Millie and Jess situation was just nasty. I mean, he had a conversation with Jess talking about how he wanted to kiss her. And you know what, yeah? I actually think that if Jess didn't physically move back like this when he said he wanted to kiss her in that conversation after the recoupling, the first one we got to see between them, if Jess didn't do this, that Millie's my friend, if she didn't do that, he would have kissed her. He would have kissed her then. He's the one that brought up the kissing. He brought it up. She flirted back. She was like, yeah, like I would like to kiss you, but I don't want to do that to Millie. Like Millie needs to know what's going on before I would be willing to do anything with you. Yeah, we need to talk to Millie. He's like, yeah, I'll talk to Millie. Just literally said, come back to me in like 28 hours. I don't know why she said 28 and not 24. Come back to me in 28 hours and we can have this conversation again. Maybe in that time she thought she would talk to Millie and let Millie know that she's kind of feeling the guy that she's talking to. Maybe she wanted to give him the opportunity to tell Millie that, you know, I am kind of interested in Jess and I'm going to get to know her. So she said, not now. Let's put this on ice. Let's put this on pause. Give me 28 hours. We'll circle back. Yeah. Charlie goes to Millie and says, Jess wanted to kiss me. First of all, he was talking about they should close things off. I don't know if that means exclusive or whatever. I don't know these days because people like to be creating new stages to relationships. They should close things off. Kissed Millie. Then after that was like, oh yeah, like, I'm kind of into Jess, you know, like me and Jess have been flirting with each other and obviously I'm single and, you know, I'm single. And so, yeah, and Jess wanted to kiss me. She was full on. She came on to me. And I just love how Millie just, what? You just kissed me. You just kissed me. You're just telling me that you want to close things off. Why didn't you tell me that before? This whole conversation would have been different if you had told me from the get-go, I just had a conversation with Jess and I'm open to getting to know her. Then I wouldn't be up here lipsing you up, for one. And I wouldn't be buying the whole let's close things off. There's nothing to close off if you're still looking to get to know Jess. It doesn't make any sense. From then, I said, this man is manipulative. Red flag. Then the next day, he's pulling Jess. And the way Charlie pounced on Jess to give her that kiss, I was like, you know, consent is sexy, right? You like, I mean, fair enough. The way Jack has been asking Whitney for a kiss left, right, and center is not particularly attractive because it's like, okay, you barely talk to the girl, but every 5 minutes, can I have a kiss? Can I have a kiss? But I would much rather you ask me for a kiss than to just pounce on me. Hello, please. Like, I know I told you last night that I do want to kiss you, but you still have to ask me for consent the next day. That was scary. Pounces on Jess, gives her a kiss, and then, you know, Jess, she's lost in the stars. She's like, this isn't Tommy. I do like this guy. He's attractive. I don't know what she sees in him, but she found him attractive. She then leans in again and they have a second kiss. And you know what's funny? You know, after that kiss, Charlie said to Jess, it scrambled his head. Now I don't know what way I want to turn. I don't know why these lot feel like they have to be swapping saliva to know who they like and who they don't like. Because a kiss is not the thing that determines whether someone's going to be a good partner or not. Like, it's important, but it's not the thing that determines it, you know? But anyway, it's Love Island. They like to kiss because the wind changed direction. So it is what it is. But like, his head was scrambled. Even in the diary room, he was talking about how his head is scrambled. He doesn't know what way he's going to go, blah, 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 blah. To the boys, he was telling the boys that Millie's his main person. Millie's the one that he wants. That means he knew he wanted Millie, but he was stringing Jess along. So when it got to the recoupling and they said, oh, and Maya said, sorry, that, yeah, the guys are choosing. I said, this guy ain't picking Jess. Jess is just a pawn. You got to remember, Millie's a favourite in there. All the guys are gagging. Majority of the guys are gagging for Millie. Millie's gotten to know Sean. She's gotten to know Scott. Like, she's been open, truly open. She's not just gotten to know Charlie. She's not kissed all of them. The only person she's kissed is Charlie. But she's been open to getting to know other guys. When Connor came in as a bombshell, he picked Millie. He beelined for Millie. Took Millie from Charlie. They were rubbing, suntan lotion on each other. Right? She rubbed it on his back. He rubbed it on her leg. Charlie was livid. He said, Went over there, pulled Millie straight up, said, listen, He's doing too much. He's only known you for about 12 hours. Why is he rubbing on your leg? Controlling. But Millie has been open because you're not my man, right? Charlie hasn't. Charlie's only had eyes for Millie. So in my opinion, given the fact that he knew Millie was endgame, and he pretty much told all the guys that Millie is endgame, he was using Jess to make Millie jealous. That's why when you look at the order of that conversation after the flirting with Jess, and he said he went up to Millie, he sat next to her on the day beds, he told her they should close off, he kissed her, giving her waxing lyrical, talking about how he really likes her, blah, blah, blah. Then after the fact, told her, oh yeah, Jess likes me. He wanted to make Millie jealous. He wanted Millie to feel like, oh my gosh, the guy that I have most of my connection with, there's other guys that I'm talking to, but the person that we've been hoping we can get connected with one another, he's the right age, he seems to be ticking all the right boxes. He's just come and told me that another woman wants him. I need to get my act together. And it kind of worked, because after that, once Millie knew about Jess, yeah, she called out the fact that he was trying to make her compete with Jess. But then she started, wearing her heart on her sleeve, laying all her cards on the table. Oh, I really like you. You don't need to do this with Jess because I really like you. I really like you. Millie wasn't having chats with Connor anymore. She wasn't having chats with Sean. She wasn't having chats with Scott. Although now she's trying to pick back up with Scott. She wasn't having chats with Scott at that time because what Charlie did was successful. You've told me you're interested in somebody else. I need to start focusing on you and leave those ones behind because I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose you. All of that made me look at Charlie like, this guy is scary. So then when Charlie has the argument with Scott, I know Scott is in everyone's business. I know that. But Scott rides for the girls. And like he said, if I stand for what's right or wrong. If I see something is wrong, I'm going to say it. Scott literally asked Charlie, did you do what you did with Jess because you were hoping that Millie would? Before he even finished asking the question, Charlie said, yeah, 100%. It's not the whole thing, but it's a big part of it. So you admitted that you used Jess to make Millie feel something. We don't know if it's jealousy or not, but you said you did it to make her feel something, right? Scott goes back to Jess, tells Jess, he said to me, Scott said something like, he pretty much admitted to me that he kissed you to make Millie jealous. Jess gets in her feelings, which it's not nice to hear as a girl that a guy used you for somebody else. It's not nice. It's not nice. So Jess gets in her feelings, goes and confronts Charlie. Charlie now deflects from what he did to, why is Scott in my business? Why would I tell Scott that? If I'm going to tell anyone, it's going to be Shaq or Ciaran. Whether Scott getting involved and telling Jess that conversation or not, whether he done that or not, that is what you did. And it wasn't right. Let's focus on that. But you did admit it. So that whole situation irritated me. And so when we were given the opportunity to pick our favourite boy and girl, favourite man and woman, and I saw that he was at the bottom, I said, oh, the nations can see what I see. And then when Maya said, Millie got favourite girl, so she gets to pick what boy goes home, and Scott got favourite boy, and so he gets to choose what girl goes home. And I saw that it was Charlie, Connor, and Sean in the bottom. I said, she's surely going to choose Connor because Connor just came in and he's not connected to anyone at all. I mean, he has pulled Whitney for a chat, but Connor doesn't strike me as a type that likes black women. I feel like Whitney is an obvious choice because all the other girls seem to be somewhere else. But then again, there's Jess. There's Belle, who's not really connected to anyone, so he could have gone to them. So maybe he does actually like Whitney, but it's like, he's not really got anyone, right? So maybe she's going to pick Connor. Sean, he's an OG, and OGs tend to like stay together. They're quite cliquey from Bombshells, and because Connor was a bombshell, I thought, yeah, Connor's out. You should have seen my face. My jaw hit the ground when Millie picked Charlie to go home. And then she even said to him, I picked you because I saw red flags. And then Charlie was like, what red flags? And I said to myself, see, this is the problem. He's so toxic. He doesn't even know what he did. these times Millie had been telling him the things that she wasn't comfortable with, but he's acting like he didn't know. And then when he had his exit interview with Maya on the deck afterwards, he was still blaming Scott, saying that he reckons he was in bottom three because Scott was getting involved. He was just doing, like, no accountability, no self-awareness, thinking he's always right. You see, after that, prior to that, I will admit, I was calling Millie a pick-me because there was a specific situation where Scott stuck up for her to Charlie. She said one thing to Scott, and then as soon as she was in front of Charlie, she was acting like she didn't co-sign what Scott said, even though she did co-sign it. She went complaining to Scott. And then in front of Charlie, she's acting like she didn't say that, which made Scott look bad. So I was like, you're a pick-me. If you can't even be honest to Charlie in his face, then like you're just looking for his validation. So for her to do that 180, I said, you know what? I won't call you a pick-me for now, because you never know, she might do something in future. But I'm gonna give you your baddie rights, because first of all, we've never ever in the history of Love Island seen someone choose to send the person that they are coupled up with home. We have never ever seen that. Ever. Like ever. And her reasoning being, there's too many red flags, it's kind of toxic, and actually I don't want you to stay in the villa and do this to me or anybody else. You did it to my bestie or one of my close friends, Jess, and you did it to me. I don't want you doing it to anybody else, so I'm gonna do everybody a favor and you gotta go. I said, you know what, Millie? That's what I like. Now Millie's looking at Scott. But then again, yeah, it's not that she's looking at Scott. She is attracted to Scott and he's the next guy that she would go for. But I do like that in her conversations with Ciaran and Samie, where they're pretty much trying to push her to get to know Scott, she's made it clear that, listen, Leanne's a lovely girl. I like Leanne. I don't want to do that to Leanne, because she's obviously really interested in Scott and Scott is really interested in her. I would like to think that Millie is saying that and has openly shown her reservations to moving on to Scott, because of what she's saying, that she likes Leanne and she doesn't want to ruin what Leanne's got with Scott. She doesn't want to do that to her friend. I would like to think it's that. I do not want to allow myself to think of the possibility that at that point or at this point, Millie knows that Scott is a favourite guy and she's a previous winner. And so it makes sense that she would want to couple up with him so that they could potentially remain the favourites. Although I don't think that would work, because if Scott moves over to Millie, the fact that everybody has shipped Scott and Leanne, if Scott moves over to Millie, it would reduce their ratings. People would be pissed. So I don't want to believe that it's gameplay. And secondly, I don't want to believe that she's not going for Scott because she knows that Scott prefers Leanne and she doesn't want to have to face that rejection. I don't want to believe that it's that. It could be. But Millie has made it clear to Ciaran and Samie that, listen, Scott is into Leanne, Leanne is into Scott. I don't think I should go there. Even in episode 9, when she had a conversation with Scott, she pulled Scott for a chat. Scott friend-zoned her. She went right back to Ciaran and Samie and was like, yeah, we're better off as friends. Like, we're friends. And speaking of Ciaran and Samie, now, I'm not a fan of Ciaran. Ciaran gets angry too quickly. Like, any little thing, he's ready to pop off, especially when it pertains to Whitney. And I have a theory, and I haven't spoken about this theory on Instagram or TikTok yet, because I hate how, as a black woman or as a black person, when we watch shows like Love Island and we see any microaggressions or any racism, I hate that when we call it out, people love to do the whole, you're throwing the race card. And it's like, you can't see why the race card is being thrown, because you have had the privilege of never having to experience what we're talking about. So you're not going to be able to see it. It annoys me. So I'm currently collecting more data before I drop this bad boy opinion on those apps. But I'm going to say it in my podcast, because I don't see people listening to my podcast that don't want to hear what I got to say, especially because it's solo and you're just hearing me speak for about an hour. I think Ciaran has something against Leanne and Whitney. I think he has something against them. I think he feels like they are the least deserving women in the villa. With Leanne, he's been trying to sabotage Leanne and Scott's relationship, you know, encouraging Millie to go and pursue Scott when you know that they just came back from a date and both of them have reported that the date was great, you know, that they both announced that they like each other. Scott's just come back. Leanne's just come back and told everyone that we've told each other that we like each other. We've taken a step in our coupling. You know, you've seen that they're cuddling and kissing at night. They're literally joint at the hip. Like they are the strongest couple in the villa right now. And you want to encourage someone else who had already spoken to Scott but dropped him like hot potato because she was interested in Charlie. You're now telling her to go back to Scott. For what? And when Millie said, you know what, I don't think so. Leanne's a good friend, like a friend to me. She's a lovely girl. Don't want to do that to her. That's when it should have ended. You should have just zipped your lips. That, you know, I'm not going to say anything else. I'm not going to try and, you know, tell you to keep going. You're pushing her. You're pushing it. Ciaran even took it upon himself to pull Scott for a chat privately and tell Scott, you know, Millie likes you. What was you hoping would be the result of that? That Scott would be like, oh, you know what, mate? Thanks for letting me know. I didn't know that. Now I'm going to leave Leanne. Who asked you to get involved in Scott's business anyway? Who asked you to get involved in Millie's? Who made you the mediator? Who made you Cupid? Who? I'm convinced he's trying to sabotage Leanne and Scott. When Millie came back and told him that me and Scott are just friends, if you saw his face, the disappointment that, oh man, that's not going to happen. Then with Whitney, he had so much vim for Whitney. When Whitney and Shaq had their disagreement at the fire pit in that game in episode 8, Scott is there, Sean is there, Tommy is there, Connor is there, Jack is there. Why are you, Ciaran, jumping in for Shaq? Do you see how big Shaq is? Do you think Shaq can't defend himself? Like, he can. Why are you getting involved? And then even in episode 9, when Scott tried to smooth everything between Shaq and Whitney, Ciaran just happened to be sitting next to Shaq. And Scott was like, listen, mate, I think she minced her words. Like, she used the words character, but really she meant the word characteristic. To be honest, I feel like regardless of the words, yes, they do have two separate meanings, and she might have minced her words in that sense, but it's pedantic. That's not even the real thing that he's upset about. Shaq was upset because he thought that Whitney had said that he was coming for AJ's character. And that's not what Whitney said. Whitney never said that you're coming for AJ's character. She just said, it's not nice to say that someone's character is an ick. It's not an ick. You have an opinion of her character. You don't feel like you gel well with her character. That's different from, you know what I mean? Like, that's not you coming for her character. It's not the same. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Scott's trying to smooth things over, trying to get Shaq to see reason. You know, Whitney's your friend. She's been your friend from outside of this, from before we came on All Stars. Outside of this experience, Whitney is your friend. We move in the same circles, mate. Surely you can approach this situation. You can deal with this situation differently. It doesn't have to come to this. That's the stance that Scott was coming from. Here comes Ciaran. I said, Ciaran, you've been friends with Shaq all of 5 minutes, all 9 episodes. Scott, Shaq, Whitney, Leanne, they are in the same circles. Sit this one out. Why do you have so much vim for Whitney? You know, and then he was coming for Whitney's character, saying all sorts of things about Whitney's character. And oh Lord, I'm gathering more data on Ciaran before I come out with this bad boy opinion, because I know people are going to have a lot to say. I'm going to be getting all the non-black people, all the non-people of colour. They're going to be like, he's always pulling the race card, everyday race card. It's not about race. It's not about race. So I'm waiting, and I'm collecting more data before I speak on that Ciaran. His connection with Samie, I don't really have much to say because we don't really see them. I feel like Samie is just as messy as Ciaran. She called Whitney rude in the situation that happened with Whitney in the more recent episodes, but to Whitney's face, she was acting like she's comforting her, or as if, well, not comforting her is quite far actually. Nobody comforted Whitney, but more like she's just a bystander looking at what's happening. But then you want to be calling Whitney rude. when you don't eat. Like, oh, honestly, they deserve each other. Samie made a comment when they were coupling up, saying how he's funny. He makes her laugh. He's the funniest guy in the villa. I haven't seen Ciaran crack a joke once, so I don't know what she's talking about. Moving on. Quite early on in this season, there was the triangle between Belle, Sean and Helena. And basically, Sean liked Helena and made a comment about how, to the boys, to Tommy and co, he made a comment about how when Belle was picking him to couple up with, that she had said a really nice speech, that the speech was beautiful and that it's made him realise that he does want to get to know Belle, but he was kind of hoping that Helena would pick him. Who did Helena pick? Oh yeah, she picked Shaq. So Sean makes that comment to Tommy. Tommy, the town crier. If you want news to spread around the villa, go to Tommy. Tommy will spread it for you like wildfire. Quick time. Tommy goes and tells Jess. Jess goes and tells Belle that Sean said he wishes that Helena had picked him. And Belle popped off. She was like, I'm effing angry. Nah, because he's been kissing me in bed and he's been telling me that he wants to get to know me and it's giving. And she went and pulled Sean to have a conversation and basically let rip. And, she just wasn't having it. And, I think Sean's intimidated by Belle because he was stunned. He was just like, whoa, I don't really have much to say. I do want to get to know Helena. And I do also like Samie. I think Sammy's attractive. Belle's doing up. You got to keep me in the loop. You got to let me know what's going on. He said, okay, cool. I can let you know what's going on. Next thing, has a conversation with Samie, realizes he likes Samie, pulls Belle for a conversation, tells Belle, I just want to let you know that I find Samie attractive. Belle's like, you pulled me for a chat to come and tell me that you think another girl's attractive. Like, what the hell is that? Then he goes, and I want to get to know her. Me and her had a conversation and I want to get to know her more. But by that point, Belle don't want to hear it because all Belle heard was, you came to pull me for a chat to come and tell me that you find another girl attractive. Meanwhile, he told her that he found Samie attractive the night before. I get why Belle was irritated, but if she had just slowed down and taken the time to just hear him out, she would have realised he didn't pull her for a chat to tell her he finds Samie attractive. He pulled her for a chat to let her know that he's going to get to know Samie, which is what she asked him to do the night before when she found out that he still likes Helena. Belle just felt rejected in that situation. That's why she popped off at Sean like that. And I didn't think that the way that she tore into him was appropriate, even though I don't like Sean. I love Belle. Don't get me wrong. I loved her in her season. I loved how she ripped into Anton because that was deserved. But in this one, Belle, pack it in, relax. But what was funny about that whole situation was Sean was doing up, I want to get to know Samie. These times, Samie is then picking Ciaran, saying that Ciaran is the person that makes her laugh the most in the villa. So now, Sean's got no one. There's no one there that Sean is getting to know. Helena is a lot more palatable in this season. I couldn't really stomach Helena in her season, her original season, season 12, because I was just like, girl, where is your self-respect? The divide between the girls was one thing. Obviously, I was team Shakira, Tony and Yasmin. So the whole stealing Shakira's bikini, inviting Harry to the hideaway when she was coupled up with Shakira, and then doing the same thing with Harrison when Tony was coupled up with Harrison. Just moving like someone that isn't a girl's girl, that had already irritated me. But from a woman to woman level, the fact that Harry kept disrespecting Helena to her face, even when Harrison was disrespecting her to her face, she was just like docile, like just accepting it all and still trying to pursue them. And that was what irritated me. And in this season, I already knew that we probably wouldn't see a girl divide like that, although it's early days, we might still do. But because Meg isn't there isn't really an opportunity for Helena to be isolating other girls and moving crazy, because Whitney wouldn't stand for it. Belle sure as hell wouldn't stand for it. So it's not gonna, the girls that are in that villa with her are not that way inclined. Maybe Jess, but the rest, no. So I knew that wasn't going to be an issue. What I was most concerned about when it comes to Helena was, is she going to be able to identify when a guy is stringing her along and cut him loose? Is she going to have self-respect? With the Sean situation, she didn't couple up with him. That was why she coupled up with Shaq. But she told Sean that he's still her number one. And she turned around and said that she's keeping him on his toes. That's not how you keep a guy on his toes, by telling him he's your number one. I was worried. I was worried for Helena that she's not learned anything. She's not built up her self-esteem enough for her to do the show again. Now there's the Shaq, Helena and AJ situation. AJ's come in as a bombshell. Shaq is already coupled up with Helena, but AJ beelines for Shaq, making it clear that she is here for Shaq. Shaq entertains it. He kisses AJ. AJ's all up on him, rubbing up on him. He's loving it. Helena finds out. Then he says, okay, I'm not going to kiss anyone. I'm not going to kiss AJ anymore until I've made a decision. Then he goes to AJ and tells AJ, I've just told Helena that I'm not going to kiss you until I've made a decision. Then AJ turns around and says, okay, if you're not going to kiss Helena, if you're not going to kiss me, then are you going to kiss Helena? Because it doesn't seem fair that you're going to still be kissing her, but you're not going to be kissing me. So then Shaq agrees that he's not going to kiss her he's not going to kiss Helena either. He sticks to his word for a piece. Helena sees that Shaq and AJ have gone up to the terrace to have a conversation. She sneaks up there with Scott to find out what they're talking about. It's all fun and games. Shaq gets upset with Helena because Helena came upstairs to listen to his conversation with AJ, getting defensive in my opinion, because I think he would have kissed AJ and he knows that he's pretending. I don't like Shaq. He's pretending. He's acting like he's a good guy, but he's not. Because I don't understand why he was so pressed that Helena came upstairs while he was talking to AJ. If you've got nothing to hide, that should have been a laughable moment. It should have been like, haha, you think you got jokes? You thought you caught me out? You didn't catch me out. I didn't do anything. So more for you. Don't you feel silly? Moving on, comes the recoupling. Helena picks Shaq. That's fine. You guys like each other. She picks Shaq. They're lipsing in bed. That means Shaq has made his decision. Because remember before, he said that he said before he's not going to kiss any of the two girls till he's made his decision. Then all of a sudden now he's kissing Helena, saying that it feels right. Okay, fine. Tells AJ about it. Recoupling comes along. Because AJ's the bombshell. AJ's the one that actually coupled up with Shaq. Kisses AJ on the terrace. So he's already kissed Helena. Kisses AJ. Then he kisses Helena again. Tells AJ about it. AJ turns around and says, you know what? I think we should chill. I think we need to slow things down. Basically Uno reverse. She basically Uno reversed it. She said, you know what? You know how like the other day you didn't want to kiss me, you didn't want to kiss her? Let's do that. Let's go back to that till we know what we're doing. Yeah, because this whole, I don't like it. I'm not feeling it. Shaq is flirting with Helena up and down. He then tells AJ the next day that she's too sexual. The too sexual that he was okay with. He was okay with it up until the point where AJ said she wants to slow things down. Now all of a sudden, she's too sexual. And that's why he's going to Helena. Helena, that is known for being sexual. In her season, every conversation she had with the guys that she was coupled up with, it was always about sex. Hideaway Helena, what do you think that comes from? I remember the conversation she had with Harry one time where they were talking about whether there's any protection in the rooms and you know, how much of a good time they're going to have having sex, all this sexual innuendo. You're talking about AJ's too sexual, but you're going for hell. It doesn't make any sense, Shaq. Shaq is and was basically doing what Charlie was doing. Only it's masked as because he's being transparent. He's telling both the girls what's going on. He's a good guy. No. Anyway, AJ gets voted out of the villa from Scott because she was one of the 3 to be voted least favourite in the villa. You would think that now that AJ is gone, Shaq will just focus on Helena. No! Now Shaq has moved on to Belle. Now Shaq is doing up, I like Belle. Belle tells Shaq she's very into her faith. She prays every day. She reads her Bible. She goes to church. She's thinking about joining a nunnery. I'm joking. All of a sudden now, Shaq remembers he's also a Christian. Oh yeah, me too, I'm into my faith. I need to go and ask Helena if she's into if she's religious. You weren't asking Helena if she was religious when you was lip locking her. You didn't ask AJ when you was lip locking AJ. Now all of a sudden, because Belle told you that she's religious, all of a sudden now you care about religion. Why are you only talking about this now? Shaq, what are you doing? Like what is going on? I get it. Like I said, it's been 9 days. We've only seen 9 days worth of episode at this time that I'm recording. Yeah. So the first extended week of Love Island, you're all open. You're all getting to know each other. No one's tied down. You do not owe anyone loyalty at this time, but you do owe each other respect. And the way in which you do it is very important. Kissing Helena, even though you told Helena and AJ that you wouldn't kiss any of them until you knew who you wanted to go with, strike one. Openly flirting with Helena, now that you're in a couple with AJ, instead of focusing on your situation with AJ first and foremost. And then AJ says to you, let's slow things down, because you obviously still don't know what way you want to go. Then to turn around and say to AJ, yeah, actually, you're too sexual. What? That's strike two. That's strike two. That's manipulative. To the point where AJ started questioning her character. She was like, have I been too sexual with other people? Is that why I'm still single? Like, have I done anything wrong? And my thing is, yeah, if you are being yourself and what you're doing isn't problematic, you're not harming anyone, you're not being abusive, you're not doing anything that, you know, would send someone into therapy. Yeah, you're just being yourself and there's nothing wrong with who you are. You're not problematic. And the person you're with makes you question who you are, that person is a problem. All it takes is for another woman to come in that tickles Shaq's fancy and he'll find something to throw onto Belle. And because he's telling people, I'm open, I'm transparent, I'm trying to be a good guy, I am a good guy, he thinks he can get away with it. He thinks he can fly under the radar. It doesn't work like that. Which is why when Whitney said to him that speaking on AJ's character isn't fair, and that, yeah, he's got an ick, but it's not her character, it's not about her character. I agreed with Whitney saying that. And I know that some people feel like Whitney shouldn't have got involved. Most of the people in that villa have got involved in other people's business in one shape or form. Just because Whitney spoke her truth to Shaq and gave her opinion on something, it's not fair to say that Whitney should have minded her business. Everyone's been in each other's business. In this episode alone, I've listed situations where people have gotten in other people's business. We had Charlie getting involved in Jack and Whitney's business. We've had Scott getting involved in Jess and Millie and Charlie's business. We've had Ciaran getting involved in Scott, Leanne and Millie's business. Everyone's gotten in each other's business. Shaq was in Sean and Helena's business when they played that game, that truth game, where, you know, someone has to, the person sits on the hot seat, gets asked questions, and then if they want to answer it, they answer it. If they don't, they go and lip someone. In that game, Shaq asked Sean, have you kissed anyone recently? He was getting involved in Sean and Helena's business. He wanted to throw Sean under the bus. That's why he cheekily asked Sean that question. When he asked Scott, who is more attractive, Leanne or Catherine? Catherine's not even there. He's currently getting to know Leanne. Why would you ask Scott that question? You was trying to be sneaky. You was getting involved in their business. You was trying to throw Scott under the bus. So now you're the one in the hot seat. All of a sudden you want to be acting like it's not right. It's not right. I thought you and Scott were friends, but you're here asking Scott, who's more attractive, Leanne or Catherine? I thought you and Sean were friends, and you're here asking Sean in front of everybody, knowing that he's coupled up with somebody else. He's coupled up with Belle, and you're asking him in front of everyone, oh, did you kiss someone recently? Knowing it wasn't Belle. But Whitney simply saying that it was Belle's decision not to kiss Shaq in the secret garden, and then her highlighting that you've got the ick, but it's not about AJ's character. That's different. You want to turn it into Whitney's not my true friend. She was trying to throw me under the bus. She was being disrespectful. She spoke to me disrespectfully. She's screaming, she's shouting at Ciaran. You did all of that, but you've been doing it to other people. Again, people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones. And the thing that irritated me the most about it is Shaq was throwing his weight around towards Whitney over a misunderstanding. Belle and Whitney had a conversation. Belle told Whitney she likes Shaq. She wants to get to know Shaq. She's thinking about pulling Shaq. Whitney said to Belle, Whitney even encouraged it. If you like Shaq, go and pull him. Go and tell him that you like him. Belle told Whitney, I'm not going to kiss him though, out of respect, because he is into Helena and I don't want to step on Helena's toes. Whitney was like, if you don't want to kiss him, you don't have to kiss him. That's cool. That's the conversation they had before Belle pulled Shaq. Whitney then took Belle to Shaq. Belle sits next to Shaq all shy. And then, you know, Whitney's all trying to push her to go and, you know, say something. And then Belle's like, oh, can I pull you for a chat? He's like, oh, why? And then Helena's like, I knew you wanted to do that when you came over. Belle takes Shaq to the secret garden. They have a conversation. They identify that they do like each other and they want to, you know, they want to see where this goes. They want to get to know each other. They decide not to kiss. Yes, that was a mutual decision. Just because it was a mutual decision in the secret garden doesn't take away the fact that Belle had already decided prior to coming in there that she wasn't going to kiss Shaq. And she told Whitney that. Shaq got so defensive, right? All he had to say was, where did you get that from? Because me and Belle had a conversation and we said we're not going to kiss. And then Whitney would have said, okay, sorry. And then she winks at Belle. It was at that point that Belle should have stepped in and said, yeah. No, actually, Belle did step in because Belle was like, because Shaq saw the wink. And then he goes, what you winking for? Because he was defensive. And then she goes, Belle knows. Belle said, yeah, me and him did decide in the secret garden, but me and Whitney had a conversation before that. If Shaq wasn't so hot-tempered, he could have heard that and then been like, oh, so you told Whitney before you came into the secret garden that you wasn't going to kiss me. Yeah, which means they're both right. Which is why Whitney said, I'm not wrong, we're both right. But he's so adamant, I'm right. I'm not going to hear what you got to say. I'm right, you're wrong. No, Whitney's not wrong. Based on the information Whitney has, she's not wrong. Belle's confirmed it. So actually, you've been puffing your chest, throwing your arms around, accusing Whitney of being disrespectful, of shouting at Ciaran, using, you know, stereotypes of her that you know are particularly put on women like Whitney to make her look some type of way, all because of a misunderstanding that you could have resolved and got to the bottom of, but because you were so defensive and because you know deep down inside, this is how it comes across to me, because you know deep down inside that you haven't been honest. You've been acting like you're honest, but you haven't been honest. Shaq didn't have to go that far. He didn't have to come to all of that. And for me, I'm disappointed in Shaq because he's a black guy. He should know how that behavior is going to come across for him, let alone knowing how Whitney has been perceived in the past, knowing how the show works and how the show paints black women. And then he's adding to that for Whitney. And you're her friend. Because he kept going on in episode 9. We're meant to be friends. We're meant to be friends. Yeah, you're also meant to be her friend. You had zero foresight. You showed yourself up as an aggressive black man. And then you try to paint Whitney in such a way. And now there's discourse about Whitney's character yet again. You're worried about Whitney supposedly throwing you under the bus in front of Helena and Belle. These times your behavior that you know is filmed and broadcasted on national TV has now led to Whitney receiving hate again. Again. It's immature. He lacks emotional intelligence. It's very disappointing. And I think Scott is very aware. That's why Scott said, listen, both of you, this isn't the right time to have this conversation because emotions are high. Like, you're meant to be friends. You should be able to sort this out. You should be able to communicate with one another. But because both of you are in your feelings, Whitney's having to defend herself because she's been backed into a corner. She was the only one that had heat on her in that game. And then Shaq feels like he's about to be found out and Whitney's thrown him under the bus. So he's getting defensive about that. Both of you are in your feelings and you think now is the time to have a conversation and you think that conversation is going to be constructive. It's not going to be constructive. It's going to make matters worse. So when Whitney was trying to explain herself and trying to tell him, listen, I'm not saying that you were throwing AJ under the bus. I wasn't actually trying to, I'm not throwing under the bus. I'm not saying that you were coming for AJ's character. I wasn't trying to throw you under the bus. This is actually what I was trying to say. He's not ready to hear it. He's like, you did say, because you said the word character. Because I said the word character, that doesn't mean that I was saying that you are coming for AJ's character. I could have said any other sentence with the word character in it. You just don't want to hear what I have to say. That is problematic. Then he storms off. Oh, this storm, very aggressive behavior. Very aggressive behaviour. I'm very disappointed in him. Throwing out, why are you shouting at Ciaran? When she didn't shout at Ciaran. All she said was, you always back Shaq. That's what she said. And that's how she said it. You now turned it into, why are you shouting? The only reason why you would do that, when you're physically there, we're watching it on the TV. We can't hear Whitney shouting. It's not coming across like her voice is raised on the TV. You're physically in front of her. You know she's not shouting. And you said she's shouting. It can only be because you want to make her look a certain type of way. It can only be for that. There's no other reason for it. And then you've opened her up to microaggressions from Samie, from Ciaran, from Jack, because of the way you handled that situation. Because you didn't look at it for what it is. You didn't take a step back. Off the back of that now, you've got Jack saying to Whitney, she's always in drama. And I get it. Like, I understand why a guy wouldn't want to be with a girl that's always in drama, especially a white guy. Like, they're not used to women like Whitney. I don't think Jack has ever really dated a black woman. I actually think that Jack had a fetish when it came to Whitney. That's why they barely had any conversation. Every time we saw them on the screen, he was always asking for a kiss. She obviously didn't feel safe enough to be vulnerable with him. And just as she was about to start getting vulnerable with him, he turns around and uses the time that she is at her lowest. She's just had an argument with Jess. She's just been screamed at and shouted at and had arms waved in her face from Shaq. The girls are backing Jess because Jess is crying, even though Jess is the one in the wrong. And you, the guy that I'm coupled up with, you now come to me and you're telling me that wasn't good for me to see. You think I care about what you saw and your feelings? Right now, my emotions are a certain way. Why can't you just ask me how I am? It's because he had a preconceived notion of who and what Whitney was. And the only reason why he was with Whitney is because of a fetish. And because Millie wasn't giving him time of day. Because he already said he liked Millie. And now that he knows that Whitney is in the bottom 3 favourite girls and Millie was picked as the favourite, and now there's this argument. He used the argument as a cop-out. He used the argument as a reason to say, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to get to know you. And even when he had the conversation with Whitney the next day, and he's saying to her, how do you think yesterday went? Don't really like the way that you conducted yourself. And Whitney was like, I don't think you really backed me. And the thing is, yeah, she was about to start telling him what had happened. And then he turns around and says, I don't really care about the story. So you pulled me for a chat, not to talk to me about how I'm feeling or even give me constructive feedback on how you think I could have done things better. Because it's fine for people in a couple to advise each other on how they conduct themselves. I truly believe that. You didn't pull me for a chat for that. You pulled me for a chat to basically tell me that you don't like the way that I handle things and use that as a reason to end things. And then you have the cheek to try and now come and tell me your story. I don't give a heck about your story. I don't care for your explanation as to why you no longer want to talk to me or you no longer want to pursue things with me. You've made up your mind. Charge it. Like Whitney says, charge it. Who cares? Then he had the cheek to ask Whitney, how do you feel about about us? How do you feel about... Why are you asking me how I feel? Don't ask me how I feel about what we got going on. We ain't got nothing going on because you just told me literally 0.11 seconds ago that you don't want to continue because you don't like women in drama. And then you went on to tell me that you don't care about the reason for why I reacted the way that I reacted. You invalidated my feelings. You invalidated my experience. So therefore, why are you asking me stupid questions? He's a quiet guy. He seems like a cool guy, but I think he has unconscious bias. And I think that he didn't really like Whitney for real. Whitney was just an option until somebody else comes in. And now Lucinda is back again. And I just want to say, yeah, I don't know why Lucinda's back. You just won Love Island Games. You literally just won 125,000 in Fiji. And you're here to do 50K. The grind, it never stops. Very greedy. Whitney's now getting to know Connor. Yeah, I don't see Connor and Whitney working. I really hope that they bring someone in for Whitney. I really do. I don't think they will, but I really do hope that someone comes in that she could actually get to know and potentially, you know, have some sort of romantic connection with. And can we talk about Whitney and Jess's friendship, right? Because, and I spoke about this on TikTok, I recalled in their season when Catherine and Whitney pulled Jess for, you know, basically to hold her accountable for the way she was treating Molly Marsh in their season. And Jess denied that she had, you know, been mean to Molly. And they were basically just like, listen, like, you are coming across mean, like, just kind of like chill with it type thing. Which I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, if I see my friends are moving crazy and I can protect them from being viewed or seen in a bad light, I'm gonna pull them and tell them, listen, like, girl, like, do better type thing, in the nicest possible way. And that's what they did. And what did Jess do? She doesn't want to talk about it no more. Leave it. And then she started crying. Victimized herself. And off the back of that, Mehdi, who Whitney was coupled up with at the time, he did what Jack just did. You're involved in too much drama. I can't be with someone who's going to be making someone like Jess cry. And it's like, Jess didn't need to cry. She did not need to cry. She victimized herself. She weaponized her tears and made herself the victim when she's not the victim. She's the one in the wrong. She did it again this season. She did it again. She knew that she had done Whitney wrong. When Whitney was being piled up on by Shaq and Ciaran and being pushed against the wall, backed into a corner, a question, they were playing the drinking game, you know, we never have I ever, or something like that. And someone, and I think it was Jess, I can't remember, was like, never have I ever forgotten someone's name. And Whitney takes a drink. And then Whitney's like, yeah, sometimes I forget names. And then Jess is like, Whitney, like, elaborate. And she's like, I don't need to elaborate. Sometimes I forget names. Then Scott goes, what names do you forget? So then Whitney lists a whole bunch of names, including Connor and Jack, because she did, in fact, forget Connor's name earlier in the day. Jess is pushing Whitney to tell everyone that she forgot Connor's name, which would embarrass Connor. But Whitney's refusing to do it. And then Jess won't let it go. So Whitney's giving her like the eye signal, like, girl, like cutting her eye at her, like. And then Jess is like, why are you making eyes at me? In front of everyone. So Jess knew she'd done wrong, because later on she goes and pulls Whitney in the corridor. She goes, are you still my friend? Why are you asking that? Unless you know you've done something, why are you asking me if we're still friends? Are you still my friend? Whitney's like, yeah, we're still friends. Like, I'm always going to be your friend, but I don't like what you did. Like, you don't see beyond the front. And I always watch out for your front. I always back you. I always do my best to take care of you. If I can see that something is going a certain way, I do my best to try and like stop that from happening. But you decided to try and embarrass me during a time when I'm already being piled up on. And the thing is, yeah, I feel like if Whitney hadn't been piled up on by Shaq and Ciaran, if the whole interaction with Shaq and Ciaran didn't happen, with Shaq didn't happen, and Jess had made that joke, I think Whitney she wouldn't have liked it, but I think she wouldn't have reacted the way she reacted. I think she would have probably laughed it off, because it takes a lot for Whitney to really, you know, so I think she would have been okay. But it's the fact that she was already being backed into a corner so much, and she had a lot of heat on her, and it's at that moment that Jess decided that she was going to crack that joke and try and force Whitney to tell everyone that she forgot Connor's name. A good friend would have seen all of that and would have tried to move the conversation along from Whitney to get the heat off of Whitney. They wouldn't be trying to encourage Whitney to say more in order to put more scrutiny on Whitney. And that's why Whitney was upset. So when Whitney was like, you don't see beyond the front, you don't back me, it's just slander, slander, slander. I don't think she was actually even saying to Jess that you slander me. What she was trying to say was, I've gone through slander, slander, slander today, and you didn't look beyond the front. You didn't back me. You didn't, you know, do what I would have done for you, which is let's take the heat off my friend. You didn't do that. You used this as an opportunity to make a joke. Sometimes I don't want to be the butt of the joke. That's what Whitney said. And Jess heard slander, 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 ran out. That's so rude. Ran out, went crying. It's not even that deep. If she knew that she didn't want to say her name, all she had to do was say somebody else's name. She didn't have to say Connor. No, how about she doesn't have to elaborate? It's not by force. Never have I ever forgotten somebody's name. She took a drink. Yeah, I have done that. And sometimes I get these names mixed up. Finish. She was being sneaky and she got caught out and she got confronted. And because she can't take it when she's done something wrong, what did she do? She started crying, weaponizing her tears. And then you got Millie and Helena hugging her and enabling the behavior and saying, oh, I don't understand why Whitney is so upset by it. And then Millie's going back to Whitney saying to Whitney, you know, she's crying. Why are you coming to tell me that she's crying? I don't care that she's crying. Have you seen what I've been through tonight? And you're coming to tell me that she's crying because I told her the truth. And I love when Whitney said to her, just because someone's crying doesn't mean they're the most hurt. She ate with that. This whole situation that happened with Whitney, from the way Shaq spoke to her, the situation with Jess and how the rest of the girls handled it, to how Jack handled things with Whitney, all of that was very triggering and it was very uncomfortable to watch. And I've seen online a few times people saying they can't watch Love Island, black women saying they can't watch Love Island because they don't like the way black women are treated on the show and it's very triggering for them and they don't understand why other black women go on the show first and foremost or why they watch the show. And I get it. But obviously my content is to review and debrief these shows, so that's why I watch them. But even if I didn't, I would probably still watch it because it's a show that I enjoy. It is triggering seeing these things, but I think I've kind of just accepted that this, you know, we make 4% of the population. The show is not going to cater to us. It will always fall short. And I've become numb to these things, but this particular season, I mean, even watching USA last summer, that was triggering for me. But this one, as it's pertaining to the UK, this was very triggering because I can relate to Whitney as an outspoken, dark-skinned black woman who isn't afraid to speak her mind, who doesn't back down, who in the past really struggled with being vulnerable and showing people how I feel. I relate to Whitney. A lot of people have thought that I was being rude when I wasn't. I was just being upfront. I've been accused of shouting when really and truthfully I wasn't. It's just that they don't like that I'm speaking. I've experienced it all. And it was very difficult to watch Whitney go through that. And I think the most disappointing thing off the back of the discourse from this, is, you know, you get the typical corporate, the typical people who just want to argue with you because they don't like that you're supporting another black woman. So like you get the typical handful of black men who, because of their own self-hatred, their own internalized racism, too much consumption of red pill content, their love for the snow bunnies, they, no matter what a black woman does, a black woman's got heat on her, they're going to add to the heat. That's what we had. Then you've got, you know, the Facebook mums, as we call it, or, you know, the white people who believe in these stereotypes and therefore no matter what you do, they're going to find a way to pin that stereotype on you. Don't like Whitney, she's rude, she's disrespectful, she's this, she's that. They come out as well and they've got a lot to say. And as a commentator, it's very exhausting talking about it, especially when you're a black woman who commentates on shows like this and you call things out for what they are. You call out the racism, you call out the microaggressions, you call out the unconscious bias, you call out the misogyny. It's like you're a walking target for people to come and do those things to you. Now I've got people in my comments telling me you're pulling the race card, not everything is about race. You've had the privilege of not knowing what it feels like to live in a world where race is always the reason, because your race isn't the one that has had to experience these things. You are privileged. Be grateful that you live in a world where you can say not everything is about race. Unfortunately for black people, for people of colour in general, a lot of the time, it's about race. A lot of the time. And we know it because we live it. It's our lived experience. So when you turn around and say, not everything's about race, don't pull the race card, it's a slap in the face. It's actually microaggressive to tell a black person, don't pull the race card. Here we go again. They're pulling the race card. Oh, it's not all about race. Using those same phrases. It's microaggressive because you know what it does? You're basically invalidating our experience. We're telling you that this is what it is. This is what we are experiencing. It's like a victim saying that she got punched in the face by a man and you tell her that she's not a victim. It's not always about abuse. He's abusing me. I should know. I'm the one being abused, not you. It's the same thing. You're telling us it's not all about race. It's not about the race card. Stop pulling the race card. You have no right to tell us how we experience things or whether we should or should not be experiencing it like that or should not be seeing it like that. You have absolutely no right to tell us that because you've got the privilege of never experiencing it. Pulling that card, the way I see it, when they say things like that, it's a tool to shut us up. It's a tool to invalidate our experience and reduce it to something else and just try and make us sweep it under the carpet. We're not going to sweep it under the carpet. We're going to talk about it. If I see it, I'm going to call it. See it, say it, sort it. I'm going to say it. Period. When I said that to someone in the comments in response, she turned around and said, I never invalidated your feelings. And I said, but you just said to me that it's not all about race and that I shouldn't be talking about race. You told me what I should or should not talk about. And I said to her, focus on your privilege. If you don't know what you're talking about, if it's not something you've experienced and therefore you cannot relate, keep quiet. This should be a learning experience for you of what not to do to make someone feel like you're being microaggressive towards them. Not you trying to defend something you have no understanding of. Clearly, have your opinion about Whitney. You don't have to like Whitney, but you can't tell a black woman what isn't racist. You can't. You just can't. I'm sorry. You just cannot. You cannot tell me whether something I experience and you don't is or isn't what it is. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And so having those type of conversations in the comments constantly, it gets very exhausting talking about these things. And I will be honest with you guys, after the Dami and India situation, where again, but that was slightly different. That wasn't really a racist thing. It was more within our community. The amount of hatred I got for that too, it gets exhausting. You get tired of trying to speak sense and trying to get people to have a broader understanding of other people's experiences. You get tired of it because you get so much, and especially when it's against a black woman and you're a black woman, and then it's they divert their attentions to you because they can talk to you directly but they can't talk to Whitney. It's very, very exhausting. And it did make me think, do I even want to be doing commentary anymore? Do I even want to be doing debriefed anymore? Because this is a lot. It's heavy. Then there's people saying black people shouldn't even go on the show. And, I get it because you're thinking about the safety and the mental health of the person. Why would you want to subject yourself to such treatment? I get it. But at the same time, if we completely shy away from it and we completely boycott it, then it's almost like we're, first of all, not represented at all in these spaces. But also, it's why can't we have the same opportunities as them? Why can't I go on a TV show? Why can't I go on a reality TV? I should be able to. The answer shouldn't be I stop going. It should be they should make room for me. The producers should be casting people who they know would be open to getting to know the other people they want to cast. Just because someone says they don't have a type doesn't mean they like black men, doesn't mean they like black women. It should be part of the vetting for getting people on this show to first of all make sure that this person doesn't have a past of abuse. They're not a narcissist, they should be doing psych evaluations. They probably do, but I feel like they're bad at picking people. The producer's casting is flawed. If you're going to have Asian people, then you need to make sure that the people that are in there with Asian people like Asian people or would be open to dating Asian people. If you're going to have black people in there, you got to have people that will be open to dating black people. The white people are catered for. And then the fact that they like to, create drama for our entertainment is another issue, because now we didn't get to see the whole conversation between Whitney and, that whole situation with Whitney. We don't know who really backed her up or not. We don't know the extent of that conversation. They probably picked out the most jaw-dropping parts to put together and show us, right? At whose expense? Whitney's. That's not right. We've got a long way to go. I know we've had Mimi and Josh win, the first fully black couple to win Love Island, and it's given us hope that we might see that again. And Cash won last one with Tony, another black man, one of the ones that wasn't toxic, and things are getting better, but it's getting better at snail's pace. And then before I go, there was something else I wanted to touch on actually. This is it. So on my TikTok, I said that I wish that Whitney would be more vulnerable and I wish that she would cry because, if she was more open with the people in the villa about her feelings, then the villa and the public would see her in a different light. They would humanize her, right? I had some black women in my comments challenge me on that mindset because they were like, Why would she be more vulnerable to these people in the villa when they haven't created a safe space for her to do so? And it had me thinking about times when I've been expected or asked to do something, but I didn't feel safe to do it, and how labor intensive it was and how taxing it was on my mental health and my emotional health. Sorry, that's Toby. And my emotional health, and how much I didn't really want to do it. And it's made me think, actually, it's not fair to say to Whitney that she should cry and that she should be vulnerable. Whitney should be allowed to decide when she should or should not be vulnerable. She should be allowed to do that because everybody else is allowed to do that. And if she doesn't feel safe to do so, then so be it. And just because she doesn't feel safe to do so doesn't mean that she should be treated any differently or viewed any differently. Just because she doesn't cry, just because she doesn't, tell everybody, that they've upset her, or, she doesn't appear to be softer more delicate or fragile based on the Western perception of what delicate and fragile is, doesn't mean that she isn't. It doesn't mean that she isn't. And it doesn't mean that she should be treated any differently to how she's being treated. And I've seen some people say, well, she's nothing like Leanne. Leanne's more, Leanne's having a better experience. Leanne has barely said anything. Why do you think that is? Leanne has been quiet. If you know Leanne from her season, Leanne can be feisty. Leanne can be rude. She's been very quiet. And I wonder if she's been quiet because it's better to fly under the radar as a black woman than to be outspoken on the show. Once you're outspoken on the show, you're branded. Essentially, I'm taking back what I said. I don't think Whitney should have to cry. I think that she did handle herself very well, especially in the aftermath. Because, she's not perfect. When Shaq told her that she was lying about the Belle thing, rather than winking at Belle, she could have said, listen, Shaq, I know you and Belle came to an agreement in the secret garden together that you're not going to kiss, but Belle told me before she went into the secret garden with you that she wasn't going to kiss you, and that's why I said what I said. She could have said that, and that would have put it on Belle. Yeah? Or the AJ thing, she could have kept quiet, because it was really Scott that was trying to throw Shaq under the bus with that one. It was really Scott that was doing that, not Whitney. So Whitney could have, she also could have done things differently to reduce the likelihood of her being in the line of fire, right? But likewise, Shaq didn't have to be so aggressive. I hope Whitney does stay in there, but only if the producers are able to bring someone in that she can actually couple up with and have a good chance with. If it's going to be more of this, everybody's ganging up on Whitney and painting Whitney out to be something that she's not, even though she's behaving and doing exactly the same thing as everybody else in that villa, I want Whitney to come home. I would rather Whitney just comes home, because her mental health and her well-being is more important than the show. I'm sorry. And our entertainment. There's probably so much more that I wanted to say, and I have been talking for ages, but I did say I had to give you 2 weeks worth or 9 days worth of debrief. By the time you watch this, we would have had, I think, 3 episodes. Yeah, 3 episodes. So more might have happened. But yeah, I would love to hear what you think about the show and the things that we've discussed. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok, because I'm doing daily debriefs on there after every single episode. So if you want more in-depth review, commentary on what's happening on Love Island All Stars, then that would be the best places to follow me on. I would even say mostly TikTok, but it's up to you. Anyway, my mouth is dry. Oh God, I've been talking for ages. So I'm gonna go now, and I'll see you next week.